Sometimes the end of the world doesn't come with an explosion. It comes with the quiet sound of a snapping string. All evening, Mark had been like a taut nerve, the perfect tablecloth, the perfect candles, the perfect roast duck. He wanted this Christmas to be the one people write books about. But when Eliza accidentally spilled red wine on the white tablecloth, Mark didn't hold back. "Can't you be careful for once?" His voice was ice cold. "I spent 3 days preparing this." Eliza froze. In her eyes he didn't see resentment, he saw fear. She quietly set the glass down. "You know, Mark," she whispered, "the duck turned out perfect, but we turned out broken." She stood up and walked into the bedroom. The lock clicked. That click sounded like a verdict. Mark stood in the middle of his perfect living room. Suddenly all of it, the candles, the tree, the food, looked like dead decorations. He felt like he was suffocating. He grabbed his jacket. He flew out into the street, barely closing the front door behind him. The frost immediately dug its claws into him. Mark was without a hat, his jacket unzipped. He walked fast, almost running, trying to drown out the voice in his head. Broken, the word pulsed in his temples. He thought he would just cool off, go back, and they would talk. But suddenly a cold thought pierced him. What if she doesn't open the door? What if she is packing her bags right now? This fear was colder than the wind. Mark reached into his pocket for his phone to call her. Empty. He had left his phone at home, on that perfect table. Now he was completely cut off, alone in a freezing city. No connection, no plan, and no way to know if he still had a family. He wandered into the old district of the city. Here, the streets were narrow and the shadows were long. Mark slowed his pace. The adrenaline was fatting, leaving room for shivering. He looked into a ground-floor window. There behind the glass sat an old man, alone. In front of him was a bowl of soup and a flickering TV. The old man ate slowly, staring at the screen with empty eyes. No tree, no candles, only solitude. Mark shuddered. He saw his own future in that old man. "Here is your ideal, Mark," he whispered to himself. "No one spills the wine, no one ruins the tablecloth. It will be clean and quiet, dead quiet." He realized that his perfectionism wasn't care, it was a cage, and he had driven himself and Eliza into that cage. He needed to do something. He couldn't go back empty-handed. That would look like a defeat, not a truce. But all the shops were closed. The city was asleep. Mark turned into an alley. And there he saw it. A lonely vending machine stood against a brick wall. It hummed and glowed with a soft white light like a lighthouse. Snow fell in the beam of its lamp, dancing a slow dance. Mark walked closer. His fingers were completely numb. There were no flowers in the machine, no expensive gifts. There were rows of metal cans. Mark's eyes caught a familiar label, cheap coffee with milk. The memory hit him like an electric shock. 5 years ago, their first Christmas. They had no money for a roast duck. They sat on the floor of an empty rental apartment, covered by a single blanket, drinking this damn coffee from a vending machine. And they were happy, insanely, illogically happy. Because back then they didn't care about stains, they cared about each other's warmth. Mark dug through his pockets. He found a few coins. With trembling fingers, he dropped them into the slot. Clink, hum, clack. The can fell into the tray. It was hot. Mark squeezed it between his palms. That heat felt like the most expensive feeling in the world. He bought a second one. Now he had 2 hot hearts in iron armor. Just let her be there, he prayed. Just don't let her leave. He ran back. The wind beat against his face. Tears formed in his eyes, but he didn't feel the cold. He carried this warmth like an Olympic flame. The entrance hall, the stairs, 3rd floor. The door to his apartment was ajar, exactly how he had left it. It was a bad sign. Did it mean she didn't even come to close it after him, or had she already left, leaving the door open forever? Mark walked in. The apartment was filled with a deafening silence. The candles had burned out. "Eliza," his voice trembled. "Silence." He walked into the living room, empty. Mark's heart dropped into his stomach. He was too late. He had destroyed everything with his own hands over a spot on a tablecloth. He stepped toward the bedroom. The door was closed. Mark pressed his forehead against the wood. Eliza, he whispered, I'm an idiot. I'm a complete idiot. I don't have my phone. I can't call you. I don't have flowers. I only have 2 cans of coffee and frozen hands. Silence. The lock clicked. Mark looked up. The door opened. Eliza stood on the threshold. She was wearing the same clothes, but there was no suitcase next to her. Her eyes were red. She looked at him, disheveled, red from the frost, shivering, with 2 cheap cans in his hands. You forgot your hat, she said quietly. I forgot the main thing, Mark answered hoarsely. I forgot that the holiday is you, not the tablecloth. He held out the can to her. It's hot, the same one from our first year. Eliza took the can, the warmth transferred to her hands. She smiled faintly. You remember. I remember everything when I stopped being a moron. She stepped toward him and buried her face in his cold jacket. Mark hugged her so tightly, as if she were the only thing keeping him on earth. Let's pour that wine on the floor, he whispered into her hair. Let's stain everything, just don't leave. They sat in the kitchen. The perfect duck had gone cold. The candles were out. They drank cheap coffee from cans, laughed, and warmed each other's hands. It wasn't perfect, it was messy, it was crumpled. And it was the best Christmas of their lives. If you found this helpful, like and subscribe to the channel. Merry Christmas!